Well. Back for another whiteboard video, and this time we've got a bit of a special one. Still temporary setup, but at least you get to see my cool Warhammer Modalios. There's my Tyranids, Necrons, Ultramarines, and then all the way down there where you can't see them because the Ultramarines take up so many fucking shelf space. Custodian Guard right at the bottom. Well, anyway, today I thought, we'll do a bit of a big one because I'm starting up again. And what better way to get back into the swing of things than going through all of the Front heroes? Like my previous video, based or cringe is your main based or cringe. This time what we're going to do is, does your main pay their taxes or commit tax fraud? Which hero in the game commits the most tax fraud? And for that category, we'll put that right here. Whoever lands in this spot here is the biggest criminal, but we'll decide at the end on who is the biggest tax dodger. So we'll start off nice and relatively easy with the knights. So when you think of a knight, who do you think of? That's right, you think of Warden. And unfortunately for Warden, he is boring. He is boring, he is lawful, he is duty bound, and therefore he pays all of his taxes. Warden is so boring that he probably will tip the government more money as a thanks for giving him taxes to pay. He's just that white bread, unfortunately. Now, can you make a Warden look cool? Yeah, of course you can. He's still a law-abiding citizen. Warden pays his taxes. Now, I've rammed it a little bit, but you've got to start off with Warden. It's just the way it goes. Griffin. Now, Griffin used to be a law-abiding citizen. If you guys know the law, you know that Griffin was at one point the lawbringer. He was, right? And then he went off and explored the lands to go pick up different moves from different people to become more cultured, to know more moves. However, if you're a law-abiding citizen and then you leave and then you disappear for fucking years on a time, that sounds like faking your own death. Griffin only went abroad under the guise of learning so he could dodge tax. I don't know whether his mortgage got too much for him or whatever, but Griffin went missing around the world for years. And therefore, Griffin definitely pays no tax. Griffin is our first tax avoidance man. So Griffin basically went on the Bali summer break year trip to avoid paying tax. We all clear on that? Cool. Griffin sits in there. Lawbringer. Now Lawbringer is just goody two-shoes. Goody two-shoes Griffin. However, that armour looks kind of expensive, and it's for his job, so he's probably wrote most of that off towards his taxes. So Lawbringer does pay his taxes, but he avoids where he can. So Lawbringer goes into tax avoidance. Right, so it's not illegal, just he avoids it where he can. Right, cool. Next one, Warmonger. Warmonger is homeless. Guaranteed, she doesn't own a home. I don't also think she has a job. She just balls around fighting people, and you can't really earn a wage by going around and murdering and fighting people. So I think Warmonger doesn't knowingly dodge tax, but she doesn't pay it. So Warmonger joins Griffin in the ranks of doesn't pay their tax. However, I don't think she's knowingly doing it. I just think she's homeless. Come on, where did she get that gross fucking virus thing from? It's just because she hasn't had a shower, and yeah. So she goes into pays no tax, aka commits fraud. Peacekeeper. I've always thought of Peacekeeper as the diligent police officer of the Knights Kingdom. She's a little violent, but that's why she fits in the police force. She's also incredibly British. Stab, stab, stab. Welcome to England. Welcome to London. So, I think Peacekeeper does pay her taxes. However, she pays her taxes. Peacekeeper can go in here. She doesn't want to pay her taxes, but because she's like the police force of like the Knights Kingdom, she does pay her taxes, so she goes in there. Right, cool. Gladiator. I think Gladiator drinks far too much, but writes it off as a job expense. I think Gladiator, obviously because he's a gladiator within, the Roman kingdom, I think Gladiator avoids, but still pays the majority of his tax because he likes his job so much, which is going into a pit and murdering everybody. But I think he does write off his beer and wine expenses off as work dinners. So I think he goes into avoid tax. Black Prior. Depends on what the fashion the Black Prior has. If he's edgy as fuck, he goes in, pays taxes. Because there is no way you could be that edgy and the government will allow you to do it unless you're paying all your tax, right? Just straight up. They would arrest you on some bullshit charge just because you are far too edgy. So BP Edge, so I'm going to put BPE, goes in, pays taxes because there's no way he is allowed to be that edgy and the government lets him do it. However, I think if you are a non-edgy Black Prior and you're like the Christian Crusader Knight, I think you don't pay any tax because the Church of England pays no tax. So BP and then NE for not edgy, you go and pay no tax, you commit fraud. Because you look good, the government doesn't look into you twice. But you do. Conqueror. I think Conqueror's the bailiff who goes in and once they found out they're not paying their tax, that's where Conqueror comes in. So Conqueror is going to go in his own little thing called bailiff. Bailiff. He's the one that knocks on doors. So Conqueror, but he does pay his taxes. So Conqueror also pays his taxes, but he is the enforcer. Just because he's like that kind of like turn the body cam off police officer kind of thing. So Conqueror goes in bailiff. Centurion. Now Centurion traditionally is a soldier. He's also a Chad. But being a soldier, he knows that paying taxes all the time, some of them are just bullshit. So I think he avoids. I think Centurion avoids paying taxes as much as he can. I don't think he breaks the law or anything. I just think there's a lot of glove polish on his tax returns. So yeah. So Centurion goes in avoidance. Right, now it is time for the samurai. Yes. Why is that making a weird noise? Oh well, so Kensei. Kensei's first. I see a samurai. Yeah, no, he pays taxes because he is like the samurai, and the samurai used to be beholden to the the lord of the area. And Kensei is definitely duty bound and pays tax. He's boring like Warden. He just pays taxes, lives, and does his responsible duties responsibly. So it's kind of boring. Right, Kaioshin. I don't think Kaioshin commits tax fraud. I think whatever sugar daddy he's currently banging pays his tax for him because Kaioshin is a twink. Nothing wrong with being a twink. It's 2025. However, he is the type of man to live the easy life because he is so twinkish. So I think Kaioshin pays his taxes, but it isn't him that pays it, it's his sugar daddy. Right, so Kaioshin goes in there. Shinobi doesn't pay his taxes because you can't fucking grab the slippery prick. So he just doesn't. So Shinobi doesn't because you literally cannot get him. So Shinbob goes in, commits tax fraud because he knows he can get away with it because he's double dodge attacks, just get him out so much drama. Bailiff's not on his own. Hey, Shinobi, you haven't paid any taxes. And then he just goes, and then he's gone. And then they're like, oh shit, he's gone again. How will we ever get him? Because the bailiffs don't have undodgeable attacks, so, right, okay, cool. Shinobi goes in there. Hitakiri commits uber tax fraud because how else would they afford their smoking habit? Have you heard of it? So Hitakiri knowingly commits tax fraud because they need to keep up the smoking habit. However, they can't get Hitakiri, the bailiff can't, because they're scary and nobody wants to talk to them. And also they stink of cigs. So they just don't do anything with it? Okay, right. Good. Nobushi knowingly doesn't pay her taxes because her iframes, like Shinobi, get her out of every situation going. The bailiff's knock on the door and then all of a sudden it's just backstep light, way of the shark. or kick way over the shark. And then those iframes just save her bacon consistently, so Nobushi pays no taxes, but she knows she doesn't. Should also maybe have an OnlyFans, and the meme of when it first started, by the way, and I'll pay the taxes, blah, 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 blah. Unfunny joke. Right, okay, cool. Shigoki. Shigoki doesn't have to pay taxes, so he doesn't pay taxes, but not knowingly. Shigoki doesn't pay taxes because he gets paid in food. And if you get paid in food, that's not a wage. However, it's just cutting out the middleman, and Shigoki knows this. I mean, look, he's a big man, and to keep up that mass, you have to eat a lot. So he'll do some guard duties or whatever, and he'll get paid in food and drink. You don't have to pay tax on that, because it's not a monetary wage. It's just, he does a job, gets fed, and then he's good. He doesn't knowingly dodge taxes, he just gets paid in food, so it doesn't matter. Orochi. A lot of you like to think that Orochi is the coolest man on the earth and he's like the anime person. Orochi pays his taxes. Orochi pays his taxes and then gloats about paying his taxes and how much tax he has paid to you because he is fundamentally annoying. We can all agree on that, right? Shinobi is irritating. So he will pay his taxes, a large amount of taxes, because all the fucking Orochis are in Marigold for some reason. So their entire armor's gold, so that must have cost a bit in tax. And they'll gloat to you about it, but I paid so much in tax this year. Oh my, the amount I paid in tax would be more than your wage thrice. And then you want to punch him. So, yeah, Orochi pays his taxes, but is annoying about it. Good. Next one. Aramusha. Aramusha, on any of the other armour sets that aren't that swamp one, pays his taxes. Ara, not swamp. The Aramusha, he goes in, no, he doesn't yet, but he's a contender for world's biggest tax dodger, right? Aramusha swamp getup goes in, doesn't pay tax because he specifically moved out into the swamp, so he didn't have an address, so the bailiffs couldn't get him. Right, okay, we're good on that. Sohei. I mean, he does like collecting souls. I think Sohei would be the bailiff for the samurai faction. So you get double guard broke and then insta-killed if you didn't pay your tax, if he caught you. Sohei, though, I think he pays his taxes. If he's up for collecting souls that much, he must pay his his dividends, yes. His tax to the local lord in the samurai era. The Vikings. It's the turn of the Vikings. Now, you may be looking at it like, oh, Vikings, they pillage. They shouldn't pay tax. They did used to pay tax. And now we'll get to it. So the first hero on the Vikings side is Highlander. Highlander is Scottish. Therefore, he doesn't pay no bastard Englishman tax. So, Highlander goes in, he commits tax fraud knowingly. And if you English bastards want to go, then you come to me, get a tax out of my wealth-filled pockets. Highlander doesn't pay any tax. Because he hates the English so much. Which is understandable. So, yeah, Highlander pays no tax. Berserker. I think he does pay tax, but he doesn't want to pay tax. I think he avoids it where he can, but as you all know, berserkers used to eat a mushroom that would put them in a battle like trance, right? Cool. He has to buy them from somewhere, so he's paying value-added tax. So he does pay his tax, but I think he wants to avoid it in any sense. Berserker. So Berserker doesn't pay his tax. But doesn't want to pay his tax, but does pay his tax, if that makes sense. So he avoids where he can. Warlord. Warlord would definitely be the bailiff of the Vikings faction. However, I think he would secretly avoid paying as much tax as possible. So Warlord would be the bailiff to make sure you're not avoiding one, you're paying your taxes. But he would, on the side, be doing it anyway. Because, skulls of the enemy, how are you supposed to write that off in a tax return? I don't fucking know. Shaman. Charmin doesn't pay tax, she avoids it. She also lives in a crack den and spends all of her money on drugs. So she can't pay tax even if she wanted to, because she's got no money to pay tax with. So Charmin goes into commits tax fraud because she is a massive drug addict. Cool, we got that? Dope. Next one, Raider. Legendary. Raider is often overseas, and typically you don't have to pay tax on earnings gathered overseas, especially within the UK. Right. So, Raider doesn't pay his taxes, but that's because he is overseas earning over there, and he's not making income where he resides, right? So it's non-dom. So Raider avoids tax. He isn't intentionally doing it, he just doesn't need to pay his tax. So Raider avoids tax, right? Valkyrie. Valkyrie, much like Warden and Kensei, is due to an honour bound. I say she pays her taxes. Valkyrie definitely pays her taxes, and she's just a normal everyday citizen that could murder you and squish your head between her thighs. Like, so, but she pays her tax. Valkyrie pays her tax. Jormungandr. Jormungandr lives in a cave and he can't afford shoes, so I don't think he pays his taxes, but I don't even think he knows what taxes are. I just think he turns up, swings his hammer around, goes back home to his cave, and then will just scream into the cave because he likes the sound it makes. So Jorm doesn't pay taxes, but he also doesn't know what taxes are. We got that Varangiangard. Varangiangard. Ooh. Varangiangard definitely pays the taxes, but she's like Orochi where she'd be annoying about it because she's like the bodyguard of the king. She goes, "Oh yes, I pay my taxes. I get paid so well that my taxes are thrice, quadruple your average earnings." So yeah, Varangiangard could shut up. So she would pay her taxes and be annoyed about it as well. Wu Lin. Now, much like Raider, most of these Wu Lins are making money overseas because we don't actually know where their continent is. So I would put them mostly in. I would put mostly Tiandi, Nuxia, JJ, and Zanhu into. No, Zanhu definitely pays his taxes. Look, if a man's that dripped out, you can't hide all that wealth, so he pays his taxes. Tiandi, Nuxia, and JJ all would avoid taxes just because they're making money overseas, so they don't have to pay taxes on that. And JJ should be retired, so that you barely pay any tax when you're retired. Shaolin, on the other hand, though, is much like your. Well, no, he's a monk, and if you're religious, if you're in a religious organisation, you don't pay taxes, right? So Shaolin doesn't pay taxes. He also doesn't earn a wage, so how can he pay taxes? Because he's doing it for the Buddha. You know, the big, yeah, it's Buddha. Yeah, that guy. Now, we're on to the Outlanders. Now, the Outlanders, weirdly enough, are mostly like the Wu Lin because they aren't from this continent, so any income they make here, they don't pay tax on. They also are knowingly not paying tax in the area that they're in, even though that they, emigrated over to where For Honor takes place. I've forgotten the name. Westfield, something. Heathmoor. There we go. Pirate specifically dodges tax. Most pirates became pirates because they wanted to continue to work, but they didn't want to meddle with the smelly government, and they also didn't want to pay tax. So pirate definitely goes into avoids tax. She's committing tax fraud. Athera is avoiding tax because at one point they would have been the warriors of the state. But as soon as she goes back, she'll start paying the tax again. Just right now, she's firstly the worst character in the game, secondly boring to fight against, but she's dutiful, honour bound, so she'll pay her tax once she gets back. Medjay again is a guard of a royal tomb, so he would definitely pay his taxes if he was where he came from right now, but he's not. He's currently in the Frontland fucking shit up. So he is avoiding tax, but he really hates the fact that he's avoiding tax. He might even send letters home to make sure that somebody in his family is paying his taxes for him. Cool. Medjay. Ocelotl doesn't know what taxes are, so he's avoiding them, but that's because he just wants to be dripped out and live in a jungle. No, I'll take it back. He does know what taxes are. He pretends not to know what taxes are. That's what Ocelotl is saying. So Ocelotl pays no tax. Catún, Hawktusha. She is like the king of her state or the queen of her state, so she does not pay tax. Everybody pays tax to her, so she actually is the biggest tax dodger of all time because people pay the tax to Catún. And that's the end of that. She's the biggest tax dodger. Did you agree with my tier list? Did you not agree with my tier list?
Did the fact that your main dodged taxed or paid them diligently annoy you?
Don't leave it in the comments below. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Don't comment. I see you commenting. Stop it. I don't want to read it. Don't make me read it. Oh, okay. Well, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.